everyone, today we are going to discuss about the Solution Architect Associate Examination questions. And today what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically read out the questions and answers for the Solution Architect examination. So there are many questions and answers associated with our examinations, and I'm gonna basically read out, and I'm going to share the link on the description below so that you can click on that link. It's a GitHub link right here, and you can see the probable questions that might appear in your examinations. And the next thing that I want to share is I'm going to share one of the link of the Facebook group where you can ask the questions, and some of our experts will come to answer your questions as well. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to read out every questions that I have listed in here. Okay, let's get it started. Suppose you are hosting an web application in EC2 where number of users is expected to increase in coming months. The best method to add elasticity is set up web application on more EC2 instances and set them behind load balancer, that is elastic load balancer. The second option is to set up an web application on more EC2 and use Route 53 to route request accordingly. So we have next question. For the maximum ratio of IOPS volume to volume size is 50:1. This is the thing that you need to remember while going to the examination. So whatever the scenario might be, so if the question says the volume size is 8 GB, the maximum IOPS of the volume will be 400. That's because 50 times 8 is 400. Right, that's what you need to remember. Now we have another question, that's in different subnets in the same VPC you have two Ubuntu instances located. These instances should be able to communicate with each other, but when you are trying to ping from one instance to another, you get a timeout. The route table seems to be valid and has the entry for the target local for your VPC CIDR. The valid reason for this issue is the security group has not been modified to allow the request traffic. So you need to add the rule in the security group and make it allow for the requested traffic, right? So we have next question, that's for EBS volume currently attached to EC2 instance from one availability zone to another. You should create a snapshot of the volume and then create a volume from the snapshot in another region. Okay, that's for the scenario where you want your EC2 instance from one availability zone to another. Okay, now to retrieve the public IP address assigned to the running instance via the instance metadata, you need to remember this format. So it's HTTP, right, 169.254.169.254/. So this is the one of the confusing thing that comes in the examination. Sometimes they create metadata / latest, right? So you should select this option. It's latest / metadata / public IPv4. Okay. Now the next question is to ensure that you are available to recover from a database crash to use the MySQL RDS in AWS. For this, ensure that you are using MyISAM storage engine for MySQL, right? This is the recommended practice. Now what is the practice that's not recommended? That's to ensure the automatic backups are enabled in RDS. So this you need not to care about. To ensure the tables in RDS do not get too large. Ensure the file size for RDS is under 16 terabyte. These things you do not need to care about. So we have another thing, this Route 53. So when it asks about the Route 53 features, always remember that Route 53 is used for registration of domain names, routing of internet traffic to domain resources, and for the health check of resources. Again, the point of thing to be noted is the offloading content to cache location is not the feature of Route 53. And this the commonly asked question that says the type of endpoint exposed when working with API gateway is HTTPS. Okay, and we have some of the verbs supported with API gateway. So that is get, post, put, patch, delete, head, and options. And the container technology supported by AWS is Docker, right? So the questions might come with the scenarios like Kubernetes, Dockers, and other things. The option that you need to select is Docker. Now the second, another thing is provide a single sign-on experience for existing users when used alongside with AWS token service using on-premise application. So this SAML does that task to provide the sign-on experience for existing users, right? So it's SAML 2.0, which is also known as Security Assertion Markup Language. For OpenID Connect and OAuth, so this is used when you want users to sign in using well-known third-party identity provider such as login with Amazon, Facebook, or Google, right? Then we have next questions, that is volume check has a status of insufficient data. So what does that mean? The check on the volume is still in progress. That means if check fails, the volume is impaired, right? The status of volume is impaired. Now we have constitute the term of golden image refers to an AMI which has been constructed from a customized image. When designing a health check for your web application, which is hosted behind an elastic load balancer, which of the following health check is ideal to implement? That's HTTP health check. So example of synchronous replication in AWS. So that's AWS multi-AZ RDS, and Amazon RDS automatically creates a primary instance and synchronously replicates the data to standby instance in different AZ, right? So AWS multi-AZ RDS is the example of synchronous replication in AWS. To get a reason for your EC2 instance termination from CLI, you need to use AWS EC2 describe instances. Okay, next question. Which AWS service should be implemented in multiple availability zone for high availability solutions? That's Amazon EC2 and Amazon Elastic Load Balancer. Next questions. If application is processing once in a week and not all messages are picked by the application where application is currently configured on the EC2 instance to process messages in SQS, the issue is some messages have surpassed the retention period defined for the queue. So that means when you create the SQS with default option, the message retention period is 4 days, right? And which means the message sent at the start of the week will get deleted before it get picked by the application. Okay, this is what you need to remember. And we have some of the queue attributes. That's default visibility timeout is 30 seconds, message retention period is 4 days, and the maximum message size is 256 KB, right? Let's move to next question. You created your own VPC and subnet. You have launched instance in that subnet. You noticed that the instance is not receiving the DNS name. So the probable reason is the VPC configuration needs to be changed. You can do it by going to actions and edit the DNS host names too, right? So you have, the next question is, you have VPC created in AWS which will host an application. The application will just consist of web and database servers to access from the internet by internet users. The VPC configuration you see is VPC with public and private subnet. This practice is recommended if you want to run public-facing web application while maintaining back-end servers that aren't publicly accessible. Now we have another question. Which of the following are true with regards to EVS volumes? So EVS volumes are automatically replicated within that zone to prevent data loss due to failure of any single hardware components. After you attach a volume, it appears as a native block device similar to hard drive or other physical device. An EVS volume can be attached to only one instance at a time. So what is not true about EVS volume? So EVS volume can be attached to any EC2 instance in an availability zone. So that's not true, right? Now the next question, your VPC has 3 subnets, 1 private and 2 public. An EC2 instance are in the same security group. You created an application which connects to mobile devices using custom port. This application has been rolled out of production and you need to open the port globally to the internet. So you can do that by opening the port on the existing security group. Your EC2 instance will be able to communicate over this port immediately, right? So moving to the next question, you are creating a number of EVS volumes for your EC2 instances. You are connected on backup of EVS volumes. Which of the below is a way to backup EVS volumes? So the options are: write a cron job that uses AWS CLI to take a snapshot of production EVS volumes, right? You can create a snapshot via CLI command create snapshot, right? The next thing is, even though snapshots are saved incrementally, snapshot deletion process is designed so that you need to retain most recent snapshot in order to restore the entire volume. So the next thing, if you are planning to host static website on EC2 for high availability environments, I'm sorry, I have a lot of spelling mistakes here. I'll correct it as soon as possible after this video. So that is an auto-scaling group to recover from EC2 instance failure, elastic load balancer, and multiple availability zone. So this is the thing that you need to remember. Okay, now let's move on to the next question. Okay, which says, what amount of temp space is allowed? What amount of temp space is allowed when you are using lambda functions per invocation, right? So that's 512 MB, which is ephemeral disk capacity, which is known as temp space, right? Now, requirement to create a subnet in an AWS VPC which will host around 20 hosts. This subnet will be used to host web servers. So that's 10.0.1.0/27, right? The available IP address for the CIDR or CIDR block is 32 addresses. However, the first 4 addresses and the last IP addresses in each subnet CIDR blocks are reserved, right, and cannot be assigned to any instances. So this is the reason why in the explanation part it has written as 27 IP are available for the location, right? So the option might give like we have /32, we have /28, but you need to select 27. So that's the reason why. So what you need to remember is 10.0.1.0 is a network address, 10.0.1.1 is reserved by AWS, 10.0.1.2 is also reserved by AWS. Similarly, 10.0.1.3 is reserved by AWS, and 10.0.1.31 is network broadcast address. So moving on to the next question. You run a website which hosts videos, and you have two types of members: premium fee paying members and free members. All videos uploaded by both your premium members and free members are processed by a fleet of EC2 instances, which will poll all videos once all videos are uploaded. However, you need that your premium fee paying members videos have higher priority than the free members. So how can you do that, right? How can you design the SQS? So what you need to do is you need to create two SQS queue, one for premium and one for free members, and program your EC2 fleet to pull the premium queue first, and if it is empty you can then pull the free members in SQS queue. So first you need to pull the premium queue, right? And if it is empty, then you can pull the free members. So what is true about server-side encryption? Server-side encryption encrypts messages as soon as Amazon SQS receives them, right? Moving to the next questions. We have in VPC, you have launched two web servers and attached to an internet-facing elastic load balancer. Both web servers and elastic load balancer are located in public subnets, yet you are not able to access web application via elastic load balancer. So what might be the issue? You should attach an internet gateway to the VPC and route it to the subnet. Again, I want to mention you, if you are not sure about how the elastic load balancer, auto scaling and your subnets VPC works, I have more videos that I've created in my channel. You can look through it and you can practice one or two labs that I have created over there, which gives you the great idea of how the things works, and you will be able to understand most of the concept that I am talking right now. Okay, so moving to the next question. You want to ensure that you keep a check on the active volumes, active snapshots and elastic IP address you use, so that you don't go behind the service limit. Which services can help in this regard? So it's AWS Trusted Advisor. So what is AWS Trusted Advisor? It is online resource to help you reduce cost, increase performance and improve security by optimizing AWS environment, right? The next thing, if you don't know what storage capacity requirements are, text and audio file can be stored in S3 for storage until it's retrieved, right? So the question, this I have included because there are many scenario questions which says if you are unsure about the storage capacity requirement, what service you should use, S3, EC2 and Elasticase. It might be asked in some kind of scenario question. Always choose ES3 when you are unsure about the capacity requirement. Okay, to create a script which could create duplicate resources in another region in case of disaster, so you can use CloudFormation. This helps you to model and set up your Amazon Web Service resources so that you can spend less time managing those resources and more time focusing on the application that runs in AWS. So Bastion hosts are the instances in the public subnet which are used as jump servers to resources within other subnets, right? So always you should host the bastion host in the public subnet, right? This is the thing that you need to remember, which acts as the jump server to resources within other subnets. Okay, for reserved instances which we need to shut down now, but the data is still required for your future, you need to take a snapshot of EVS volumes and terminate the instance. Okay, the second thing you need to do is sell the instance of the AWS reserved instance market. Sorry, sell the instance on the AWS reserved instance marketplace. For the disaster recovery based solution, you need to create an AMI of the EC2 instances and copy it to another region. Next question, you need to add security so that you can access HTTP traffic to the server. So you can do add rule to the security group as desired, or you can do that by type HTTP right, protocol TCP and port range 80 and keeping the source of the internet, that is 0.0.0/0, and you can use HTTP as a type, TCP as a protocol, and port range 80 and the source as again IPv6, right? And you can also use SSH, right? And you can use TCP protocol, and you can use the port range 20, right? And again source the internet. Port range 22, sorry, this port range 22 is for the SSH, always remember that. Okay, so when we go to next question, Amazon Redshift uses block size for columnar storage. So always notice that this we have three things like DynamoDB, RDS and Redshift, right? So when it comes in the scenario like you have RDS and DynamoDB, so in such scenario there might be such scenario, and there might be RDS, Redshift, those options, right? So always remember the columnar storage is Redshift, right? This is what I was trying to explain. And to know the space of block size, you need to know it's 1024 KB. So the next, moving to us the next question, you should not save your API credentials. Instead, you should create a role in IAM and assign this role to the EC2 instances when you first create it. Okay, and the next question is, which of the following matrices do you need to design a custom cloud matrix for when monitoring the health of the EC2 instance? So you can do that by memory uses, right? When you go to CloudWatch matrices, there you'll see the graphs, right, which shows the memory uses over there, right? So this is the thing, you can just it's basically most of the thing you will know just by navigating what is the AWS services and how does it work. Just go on clicking the services that you can find among the console, so that will give most of the overview, right? I saw this memory uses inside the CloudWatch matrix. It is a kind of graph that you can see over there. Okay, and there's another question. There's, in order for EC2 instance to be accessed to the internet, what you need to require is you need to have an internet gateway attached to the VPC. You need to have a public IP address attached to the instance, and you need to have a route entry to the internet gateway in route table, right? So another thing that you need to keep in mind is Kinesis stream data records are only accessible for a default of 24 hours from the time they are added to the stream. It stores 25 hours by default up to 168 hours, right? you can extend it up to 168 hours. And the next thing that you need to remember is a customer wants to, suppose this is a scenario question, a customer wants to track access to their Amazon S3 buckets and also use this information for their internal security and access audits. Which of the following will meet customer requirement? You can do that by enabling the server access logging for all required Amazon S3 buckets, right? Okay, another trick to remember most of the things that AWS handles, right? You can download this video and keep it on your mobile, on some iPod or any other music devices, and you can listen it and go through the morning walk or evening walk, whatever you want to do. So while even if you are driving, right, you can play this. It's kind of gives the remind of what are the services. So that's a kind of motivations for you guys to learn about the services, right? So to define network ACL for your subnet, as soon as the rule matches traffic, it's applied regardless of any higher number rule that may contradict it. So if you have used the network ACL, so the rule will allow everything until there is deny in the higher number traffic, right? So that means if I have 10, 9 and 8, so if I have the deny on 10, right, the 8 and 9 will not work. So that's what we mean. So for the network ACL for your subnet, as soon as the rule matches traffic, it should be applied regardless to any higher number rule, right? So which procedure for backing up a relational database on EC2 that is using a set of rated EVS volumes for storage minimizes the time during which the database cannot be returned to and results in consistent backups? So that's you can do that by suspend disk input output, start EBS snapshot of volumes, wait for snapshots to complete, and resume disk. So this is a process, right? This is how we have included which procedure. So this is the step-by-step procedure that you need to care about. So there might be scenario questions which might just disorder these procedures, but you need to think about what the right procedure should look like, right? Okay, now we have another thing, that services that can be used to store session data for session management. So that's RDS, DynamoDB and Elasticsearch, right? And another thing, the scenario based question what will be asked is for accessing of 24/7 support, right? We have both a business and enterprise, right? But when the question asks about keeping the cost minimum, then you should use business. Okay, when you move to the next question, we have private IP addresses, right? So in Amazon EC2 Classic, the private IP addresses are only returned on Amazon EC2 when the instance is stopped or terminated. Okay, but in VPC, an instance retains its private IP address when the instance is stopped. Similarly, in EC2 Classic, the private IP address is associated exclusively with instance for its lifetime, right? These are the rules about private IP address among the services of EC2 and VPC that you need to care about. And which is not true about private IP address, that in VPC an instance doesn't retain its private IP address when instance is stopped. This is false, because instance retains the private IP address in VPC when the instance is stopped, right? So moving to the next question, what is the best practice for monitoring the EC2 instance? So that's creating and implementing a monitoring plan that collects monitoring data from all of the parts on your AWS solution, automating the monitoring tasks as soon as possible, and checking the log files on your EC2 instances, right? These are the best practices for monitoring the EC2 instances. So moving towards a simple workflow, we have it makes easier to develop asynchronous and distributed applications by providing programming model and infrastructure for coordinating distributed components. Okay, now SWF and Amazon EC2 are appropriate solution for managing a multi-step and multi-decision checkout process of an e-commerce website, orchestrating the execution of distributed and auditable business processes, right? Now moving to the next question, we have, in case of sudden increase in traffic, to keep minimum storage cost where it doesn't matter if some objects are lost, you need to use S3 reduced redundancy storage, right? Okay, so talking about EC2 instances, there is no charge for public data sets. Instance state can be pending, rebooting, running, stopping, stopped, shutting down, or terminated, right? So that's the instant state possibility, right? What the options can be. So these, everything can be asked in some kind of scenario based questions, but what you need to be clear about is the concept of how the services work, what are the areas that where services can be applied to, right? Now it is EC2 instance is also used, we use EBS backed instance which can start, stopped, or terminated, right? Now talking about database servers, you should not, these database servers should not be exposed to the internet and should reside in private subnets. Okay, now next question, which of the following can be used as the origin server in CloudFront? So it's a web server running on EC2, web server running in your own data center, and an Amazon S3 bucket, right? This is the, in this scenario you can use the origin server in CloudFront, right? Now another question, you have written a CloudFormation template that creates one elastic load balancer fronting two EC2 instances. Which sector of template should you edit so that DNS of load balancer is returned upon the creation of the stack? So that's output section, right? Output sector. So moving towards the next question, is it true that EBS can always tolerate AZ failure? No. All EBS volumes is stored in single availability zone. That's what you need to remember going to the examination, right? EBS volumes are only stored in single availability zone, right? But EBS volumes has multiple copies but within the same availability zone. So this is what you need to care about. Okay, and moving towards the next question, we have configured servers, we have configured and paired two VPC, right? VPC 1 in public subnet and VPC 2 in private subnet, and AWS uses the direct connect to connect to the VPC 1, right? So which method will increase in fault tolerance? So for the fault tolerance, you need to have a VPC connection in connection which is considered as a backup to the direct connect connection, right? Second thing is you need to establish a hardware VPN over the internet between VPC 1 and an on-premise network. And the third thing is you need to establish a new AWS direct connection and private virtual interface in the same AWS region as VPC. So moving towards next question, again I'm telling you, if you are confused about some of the questions, right, how this option is suitable, you can copy and paste the questions in the group that I'll suggest in the description below. It's a Facebook group, and one of our instructor or AWS specialist will be there to answer your questions, right? Okay. Which of the following benefits does adding multi-availability deployment in RDS provide? So that's multi-AZ deployed database can tolerate an availability zone failure, make database more available during maintenance tasks, right? So next question, by default what happens to data when EC2 instance is terminated? For EVS backed AMI, any volume attached apart from operating system volume is preserved. All the snapshots of the EVS volumes with operating system is preserved. For S3 backed AMI, all the data in the local ephemeral hard drive is deleted, right? These are the things that you need to consider when it asks something about when EC2 instance is terminated, right? So moving to our next question, an instance must either have a public or elastic IP in order to be accessible to the internet, right? That's what you must take in mind, right? You must remember. So the instance should have public or elastic IP to access to the internet. So what is so we have elastic IP must be assigned to access internet. A public address is reachable from the internet. You can use public IP address for communication between your instances and the internet. And an elastic IP address is a static address designed for dynamic cloud computing. So that's basic overview of how elastic IP and public IP works, right? So moving to our next question, if you have instance that doesn't have a public IP address, you can associate an elastic IP address with your instance to enable communication with the internet. So this is related with the above question. Suppose if you don't have public, you need to have elastic IP. If you don't have elastic IP, you need to have public, alright? That's the thing. And so moving to the next question, you have built an AMI, another AWS account holder wants to use your AMI but is not able to access it. What could be the issue? The AMI is not public, so you need to make that public, right? Okay. The next question, what is the basic requirement to logging into an EC2 instance on the AWS cloud? So that's key pair, right? Another thing, feature that allows to take backups of EVS volumes, that's snapshots, right? So next question, a company wants to host a selection of MongoDB instances. They are expecting a high load and want to have low latency. This can be done with I2, right? I2 instances are optimized to deliver tens of thousands of low latency random input output operations per second. And I2 instance is well suited for NoSQL databases and cluster database as well as online transaction processing system, right? Okay, moving to our next question, which of the below elements can you manage in IAM dashboard, right? So if you have gone many times to the IAM dashboard, which is one of the most important section when it comes to AWS, you'll see groups, users, roles, policies, identity providers, account settings, credential report, and encryption keys, right? So next question, AWS Lambda supports code written in Node.js, Python, Java, and C#, right? So we have a photo sharing service which stores picture in Amazon S3 and allows applications sign in using OpenID Connect compatible identity provider, which AWS security token service offers to temporarily access should you use for S3 operations. So you should use Web Identity Federation, right? This facilitates for you to sign in with Google, Facebook, etc., right? So we have next question. If resources needs to be separated and a separate government model is required for each section of resources, then it's better to have separate AWS for each division, right? So in this scenario, you need to enable the AWS cross-account access for all corporate IT administration in each child account, and you should use AWS consolidated billing by creating AWS organizations to link the division's account to parent corporate account. Again, one more thing that you need to remember about SQS is SQS helps to facilitate horizontal scaling and helps in encoding tasks. So in the event of an unplanned outage of your primary database, AWS RDS automatically switches over to the secondary. In such case, which record in Route 53 is changed? So that CNAME record will be changed, right? Moving to next question, we have, so what you need to remember is failover is automatically handled by AWS RDS so that you can resolve database operation as quickly as possible without administrative intervention. When failing over, RDS simply flips the canonical name record, which is known as CNAME, for your DB instances, right? So regarding tagging, right, what are the things that you can tag? So you need to avoid this placement groups, right? Placement group you cannot tag placement group in AWS, right? So another questions, that is for monitoring data available in Amazon EBS volumes without any charge. So we have basic and detailed, right? The basic is data is available automatically in 5 minutes. In detailed, we have provisioned IOPS SST IO1 volumes, which is automatically sent 1 minute, which sends 1 minute matrix to CloudWatch, right? So this is for the monitoring of database, right? Monitoring of EBS volumes. So moving to our next question, what is the major advantage of having VPN in AWS? Is you can connect to cloud resources to on-premise data centers using VPN connections. So moving to our next question, an administrator runs a highly available application in AWS. A file storage layer is needed that can share between instances and scale the platform more easily. Which AWS service can perform this action? That is Amazon EFS, right? So Amazon EFS provides scalable file storage for use with the Amazon EC2, you can create an EFS file system and configure your instance to mount the file system. The EFS file system can be used as a common data source for workloads and applications running on multiple instances, right? So moving on, next question. While reviewing the auto scaling events for your application, you notice that your application is scaling up and down multiple times in the same hour. What design choice could you make to optimize cost while preserving elasticity? So you can do this by modifying the auto scaling cooldown timers, modify the CloudWatch alarm period that triggers your auto scaling down policy, right? So moving towards next question. A company hosts a popular web application that connects to AWS RDS MySQL database instance running in a private VPC subnet created with default ACL setting. The web servers must be accessible only to the customers on an SSL connection, and the database must only be accessible to web servers in public subnet. Which solution meets the requirement without impacting the running applications, right? So you can do by create a web server security group that allows HTTP port 443 inbound traffic from anywhere over the internet and apply it to the web servers. The second option is to create a DB server security group that allows MySQL port 3306 inbound and specify the source as web server security group. So I'm going to show the recommended rules, right? This option has been chosen because this is the recommended rule. So for web server security group, the source need to be internet, protocol TCP, port range 80, which allows inbound HTTP access to the web server from any IPv4 addresses. We have source internet, protocol TCP, and port range 443. So this also allows inbound HTTP access to the web servers from any IPv4 addresses. But in case of DB server security group, right, you need to have source, the ID of your web server security group, TCP port range 1433, which allows inbound Microsoft SQL Server XX from the web services associated with the web server security group. And you can do this by making the port range 3306 too, right? Okay, this is the basic thing what you need to remember. So I'll add further more questions and discuss in the coming video, and this everything is open to you and I have shared in the description below. And also don't forget to question in the Facebook group if you have any doubts, and someone will be there to ask regarding your question. Someone will be there to clear your questions, right? Okay, hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you very much.